All right, guys, back on Southeastern 16 with Max Barr previewing the Auburn Tigers versus Purdue on Saturday. That game's going to take place in Birmingham at the Legacy Arena there, 4:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. Max, I always ask for your initial thoughts on the matchup when we do these. And, for this one, it's kind of a different scenario because we don't really have a sample size for Auburn that's larger than however many minutes against Georgia State without Janai Broom on what has been the most dominant team in college basketball to this point. So I feel like asking you that question makes this game a little bit tricky to look at on the whole.
Yeah, Purdue is basically just a 17th member of the SEC at this point. We had the Alabama game, we had the Texas A&M game, and now we have the Auburn game. They're playing half a conference schedule. Yeah, it is. This is going to be a real tricky one. The analytics have Auburn -10 as the line, depending on where you look. But without Broom, I would be very surprised if it's a double-digit spread. I don't think that's going to happen at all. I bet that comes down a few points. So tricky one here. We got to go off what we had whole game pretty much against Georgia State, but it's Georgia State. I mean, how much can we really put into that? That's why we're doing this.
Yeah, it is because, and I know, right? Like there are going to be people who say, well, Auburn is still, look at what they're doing, right? They're just completely dominant and hey, it's one player, the team will rally, all this stuff. And it sounds great in theory, but we're not just talking about like one player. We're also talking about if Auburn's the best team in the country, they got the best player in the country. And like those are two things that just, going into pre-Broom injury, I just didn't think were really that debatable. Like, I mean, sure, you could debate it, but it would just seem pretty obvious in terms of the way they'd been playing and the way he had been playing specifically. And so it is a significant thing, like, right? If he's not on the court, like, it is different. But like you said, if you are Auburn, you're Bruce Pearl, you can certainly look at this and say, all right, well, what did we learn from the game against Georgia State? Completely different opponent, but what did we learn, right? Chaney Johnson goes for 26 in that game in 30 minutes. He had 8 rebounds, 4 assists, had a couple steals, and Bruce Pearl mentioned that. Just the impact of a Chaney Johnson stepping in that spot is going to be the obvious one. We know Dylan Cardwell, will obviously be called upon to do more things, even though he already is kind of doing that. Everything else, everything else stays the same, but you also just have to figure out from a matchup perspective, what does Purdue do differently now, knowing that Broom's not on the court? What do you do differently against a different kind of opponent like Purdue who, as we've talked about them before, you've got some of those older guards who have been in these kind of games. They're a very good offensive team. We talked about how well they shoot the ball. So, yeah, like it's challenging to sort of preview this game because it's so different than every other Auburn game we talked about this season.
Yeah, our good friend Evan Mia put out a tweet yesterday, actually. Top 10 most indispensable players in the country. Cam Jones, Marquette is 1. Ace Baldwin at Penn State is 2. Then we have Braden Smith. And then at number 4, Janai Broom. So whether you like it or not, he's one of the most impactful players in the country, and not having him is a blow. Yes, you looked good against Georgia State, and Chaney stepped up, and it's such a blessing, an absolute blessing, that you have a guy like Dylan Cardwell to step up in a time like this. But it is a significant blow, and it's even more significant in a matchup like this, Blake, against a guy like TKR, who's one of the best bigs in the nation at drawing fouls. I mean, he is so good at drawing fouls. I think he fouled out Grant Nelson, had Cliff with 4. He had Ben Gould with 4. Yeah, you name the team they've played, TKR's gotten someone in foul trouble. It's just, he's so good at it. And this is going to be the first time, Blake, where what happens if there's no Broom and no Cardwell on the floor? And it's, what's that looking like against one of the premier offenses? Could get tricky. Could definitely get tricky there. That's an angle to watch. TKR drawing fouls.
Yeah, TKR, Trey Kaufman-Wren, has been successful against SEC opponents this season, at least a
That's
couple of
it.
them. Uh, Alabama, he goes for 26, 8 rebounds, 4 assists. So I mean, yeah. So like, remember, like he had just a fantastic game against
Yeah.
Alabama. It was 11 of 20. No, wait, he was 12 of 23 from the floor in that game. 11 of 22 from two, which is just a wild stat. Against Ole Miss about 3 weeks ago, goes for 25, 13 25 points, 13 rebounds in that game. And then, if you remember the last time you watched Purdue play, well, they played against Texas A&M. They lost 70 to 66. He only had 11 in that game. Was not his best game against the Aggies, which the way they play defense, maybe not surprising. But so he's had some success, and like you said, in a matchup like this, where there is no Broom, you certainly again need a lot out of Chaney Johnson, Dylan
Yep.
Cardwell, and just those moving pieces up front. But not just to contain it to that, because, like I said, the names the names you've heard seemingly for years and years now, even though they're not that old, right? They're both juniors. But, Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer, those guys are still going to be a big part of what this Purdue team does. Offensively, both averaging 11 or 13.5 points per game for Lawyer, 13.4 points per game for Braden Smith. And so those three guys are going to be on the floor 30 plus minutes. Like you kind of know that going in.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious to see, we talked about kind of just the continued development of this guard group for Auburn and Tahad Pettiford, coming and just having a great season so far, to this point. He's been a big reason why they're so successful. Denver Jones, Chad Baker-Mazara, Miles Kelly shooting the ball the way he has. So, yeah, like this is such a great matchup here between these two teams, but we do have to do it within the context of the best player in America not being on the floor.
Yep. There is a specific angle I'm about to get to. But first, Blake, say you wanted to put a little wager down on this one. How would you go about such a thing?
Well, I'm glad you asked, because if I had to let you make a prediction right now, not just on the game, but prediction on what you think the point spread is going to be in this game, do you have any idea what you think this is going to be?
Man, I'm gonna say like 6.5. Six and a
Well,
half for Auburn is what I'm gonna say.
if you want to find out whether Max is right or wrong, you can head to Bet Online, the world's most trusted betting platform, and your number one source for online betting, because they will have the earliest odds, plus in-game live betting. Bet Online provides you with all the action and ability to watch the games as they happen. Largest selection of odds on everything from football, the NBA, college basketball, NHL, UFC. It's all there. Head to Bet Online today. Don't forget, use that promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, for your welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online. The game starts here. Well, continue, Max. Your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm looking at the. I'm glad you brought up the Purdue guards, because it's the Purdue guards offensively against the Auburn guards defensively. Purdue offensively has the seventh highest assist rate in the nation. They assist on 65.2% of their made field goals. That is, wow, that is a lot. On the other side, though, Auburn is number 2 defensively in limiting assists on made field goals. They only allow assists on 32.8% of the made field goals. That's 65.2% for the Purdue offense going against 32.8. I hate to just throw a bunch of numbers at you, but that is a battle right there. The Purdue efficiency of the guards against the nasty, tenacious defense of guys like Denver Jones and that bunch. That's going to be a matchup to watch, Blake.
Yep, no doubt about it. And I just, as we get into picks for this game, I said it up front. It's like, if you have a strong opinion on this one way or the other, like I'm just going to be clear, I don't. Like I just don't have a strong opinion on what I think is going to happen here, because it is trying to basically preview a team that you haven't seen this season, which is Auburn in a game like this without, the star player in the country. And I hope people understand that's not knocking everybody else, because we're about to make our picks, and I'll tell you who I'm going to pick. But it's also just kind of a matter of appreciating how special he's been this season and sort of the unprecedented season that Janai Broom is having, and then trying to figure out how do they now match up with a team that I know you'll look at and say, well, they're 8-3. Come on, they lost to Texas A&M, but this is the same team that's beaten Alabama. They beat
Yeah.
Ole Miss, they beat Maryland, and those were all top 30 teams in Ken Palm. Their three losses at Marquette, no shame in that. They lost to Penn State on the road, and like we said, the Texas A&M one in Indianapolis. But this is such a fascinating game, Max. Like I have no idea where you're going to take this for your pick, but I just think there's so many elements you can bring up here and say, well, maybe that's advantage Purdue, maybe that's advantage Auburn still without Broom, but there's just no way of knowing, I think, until we see kind of that first 10 minutes of this game and just see kind of what the approach and game plan is going to be here for each side.
Yeah, and it's important to note, game in Birmingham, the ticket prices, I'm not sure exactly what they're at right now, but holy smokes, our good friend Brandy was posting about him, noted, passionate Auburn fan. There was like going for thousands.
They're
I
booming.
saw some.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So you're going to get a rocking crowd here. Obviously, probably pro Auburn being in Birmingham. I like the Auburn offense still against the lack of Purdue rim protection. I think with that flex action that Bruce likes to run, you're going to get some good stuff inside for guys like Chaney and maybe a little Baker Mazzara action. But on the other side, I am scared to death for the game that TKR might have if he gets Cardwell in any sort of foul trouble. Purdue is coming off of losing two of their last three. It was Penn State and A&M, two really good teams, but still, two of their last three. They had a whole week off. All right, haven't played since last Saturday. They've been sitting on this one, waiting for it. I'm going to go Auburn here to win, okay? But if there's gamblers watching this, I would be on Purdue on the spread. I think Purdue covers here. I think this is a nail biter. I really do.
Yeah, I would be surprised if this is, a big advantage one way or the other. I just don't see that based on, like you said, the potential of, all right, if you're Auburn, do you just let TKR do his thing and just say, all right, we got to stop Smith and Lawyer. Let's let our guards kind of slow things down. Don't let them run their offense, those kind of things. And also stylistically, we know there is a little bit of a difference here. We've talked about kind of Purdue. They're going to play a little bit more methodical. And I think that could have even more of an impact without Broom, potentially for Auburn there. But I'm kind of with you. I mean, this game's in Birmingham. If it was, on the road or neutral court, I would probably, lean Purdue here and not to, again, tell you that Purdue can absolutely win this game because I just don't know what necessarily to expect. There is such a difference between Purdue and Georgia State that, I don't want to just go too far with the fact that, yes, I know they won by 41 in that game, but this is just completely different. This is an opponent, like you said, that sort of feels like it's reeling a little bit. Lost 2 and 3, been sitting at home for a week, thinking about how to prepare for this game. And, they also have had that time to prepare to try to dissect Auburn without Janai Broom. But I'm going to pick Auburn too here. I think it's going to be close, but there's just, again, something about this team. And, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of rise to the occasion here, rally, and find a way to get a close win in Birmingham. And I think that could be the key in Birmingham. Is kind of the story of this one. But, once again, would I be surprised if Purdue won this game? I just wouldn't because I don't really know exactly how this matchup plays out without Broom. So
that first true road game for Purdue, the stinker, the 20-point loss at Marquette, that's making Purdue look a lot worse than they are. Okay. That was the first true road game. You go on the road to one of the best teams in the nation. You put up a stinker. You take that off, and this is a rock solid Purdue resume. So just do not take this team lightly.
Yeah. Well, and just keep in mind too, like we've talked about all of this, like Bruce Pearl just say, his exact quote is, he wasn't going to practice. I think this was on Thursday. Bruce said, quote, he won't practice today, but he will travel up there. I couldn't even tell you status. We just don't know. But the good news is it's not a long-term problem. So, like, Auburn's not going to officially rule him out. But, I mean, we are doing this within the context of I think we'd be stunned if he plays in this game.
If he's out there, I would be shocked.
So keep that in mind. If he does play, then take everything we just said and
Yank
say,
it.
throw it out the window. We apologize for wasting 15 minutes of your life, but hey, this is just kind of what we have to go on going into it. But there you go. Our thoughts on Auburn and Purdue. We'll be reacting to it as we do on Saturday, so you can jump in, share your thoughts on Saturday night when we do our live reaction show at Southeastern 16. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the like button on your way out. More SEC basketball previews coming up for Saturday's slate and lots more stuff as well. But we appreciate you guys watching. We'll talk to you again here soon at Southeastern 16.